Hello and welcome back to episode 3 of the Bathurst Elwell Sports Show. I'm your host Lewis Bathurst with my co-host
Henry Elwell.
This is a show where we round up the biggest sports stories of the week. Starting with Saturday in the Championship, there was a controversial moment between Osmajic and Hannibal. And it's not Osmajic's first offence of the season, is it?
No, he bit someone, if I'm
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
What has been said, if you wanna know, and I'm sure everyone does know, is Osmajic did supposedly, allegedly, call Hannibal
A
a
racist
racist
slur.
slur, you'd say. And it's not his first offence in that, not in racism terms, but um, like off the ball activities, you'd
Yeah.
argue. It's not a great look for the lad. We'll probably never know exactly what was said unless there's like a microphone somewhere that some broadcaster has that you could pick it up on. But
I don't think we'll ever truly know what was said.
no, no,
Obviously, there was no getting away from the fact he bit Owen Beck earlier in the season against Blackburn.
yeah.
But I think the way Hannibal's been very verbal about it on social media,
Well,
saying
he's been very animated, hasn't
yeah,
he? Yeah,
yeah, he went straight to the referee. You saw his facial expression change from smiling, laughing, joking about with Osmajic to very expressionless, ran to the referee and then ran to Scott Parker and has since posted multiple Twitter posts addressing the issue kind of thing. Uh, but once again, I don't think there'll be any backlash. We saw Preston take on Millwall last night. Osmajic didn't start, but he came on off the bench and played 45 minutes, came on at half time. So you don't expect there'll be any backlash because it's Hannibal's word against Osmajic's,
yeah.
really.
It's word versus word. So I mean, unless, like I say, unless there's a microphone recording or anyone with anyone on the pitch can kind of back it up, but I doubt that'd be
No.
entirely possible. And also, I mean, you just got bias involved in that. Like, no, none of the Preston players are actually going to say,
Oh yeah,
"Oh,
he
he
said
did it."
it.
Yeah,
And none of the Burnley players are gonna go, oh no, he didn't say
yeah,
it.
exactly. So I don't, and also they weren't in really close proximity either. So
No.
we don't know really. Obviously not a good look for Preston. Not a good look for Osmajic, obviously. But hopefully it doesn't continue on. I mean, he needs to pack it in.
Yeah, he needs to.
He needs to stop something because he's getting a name about him.
Yeah, everyone knows Osmajic now, not as the player he is, but as someone who's bit someone and someone who's been accused of racially abusing somebody. When he's a player who's got 10 goal contributions for a Preston team that don't really score many goals, he's vital for him, and you really don't want him to go down with a not you can't say legacy, but with a reputation of being somewhat of a thug. And of course, Hannibal plays for Burnley, who were a big talking point recently as well because they've just got an unreal defensive record. To be at this point in the season, we're not even at the end of February yet. James Trafford's one clean sheet away from equaling the record for the most clean sheets kept by a goalkeeper in a championship season. They've not conceded a goal since the 1st of December. 9 goals all season. Nobody scored a brace against them. It's just such a defensively solid team with Esteve, Trafford in goal. They've just got such a team that you can't really score goals past. And I'm not looking forward to my Sheffield Wednesday playing them on Friday night at Turf Moor.
It is crazy how a team can only concede 9 goals so
Yeah,
far. So far, I mean, you're looking at the rest of the table. I mean, they are top of their, well, no, not top, but they're in the top three. Yeah, top three. And you know it's common for like 30 goals, 20 goals, that sort of range.
mm.
9 is mental,
9 in February, it's unheard of. And the fact
and they're not scoring though.
they're not
Really,
scoring,
it's you'd liken it to terrorism in terrorism football, but you, I, it's funny.
yeah.
It's fun. How they're managing to do it, I'll never understand.
And I wouldn't label Scott Parker as a manager who would sit behind the ball. But when you've got Esteve in defence, you've got Trafford in goal, I think it just hands itself to playing behind the ball, attacking on the counter attack. Like when we hosted them at Hillsborough, we had a majority of the possession. We had quite a few chances, but they scored 2 goals. They had 2 chances, and we couldn't score past them. And I think that's been the case with a lot of teams this season. They've kept a lot of teams towards the top of the league without scoring. Sheffield United didn't score against them.
No,
Leeds didn't
yeah,
score against them. It's the fact that no team has scored 2 goals in a single game against them this season is really
it's
baffling.
bonkers, really. I mean, their last loss was against Millwall,
Yeah.
in at the very beginning of November. I mean that.
Although they're unbeaten at Turf Moor this season, they're only fourth on home form because they just draw too many games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They draw way too many games. They're third in the league now. They could easily be top if they grab more points anywhere really. Like there's teams that you don't expect them to be drawing to that just can't score past them. They kept a clean sheet against Sunderland. It's just teams that should be scoring many, many goals. Leeds, I don't know how many teams have kept a clean sheet against Leeds this season, but it can't be many. And
yeah.
and of course, there's the added element of JJ Watt being the owner of the football club, and him uh, potentially sending a message to James Trafford saying that if he doesn't concede for the rest of the season, he will return to the NFL to play for the Bengals.
Which he will concede eventually. I mean, the record says no. To be fair, the record says that he won't concede,
There's
but
only 13 games left,
but,
and you got
but you'd expect him to at least concede a few more. I mean,
there's a
can
30.
he keep it up? Like genuinely, like can Trafford actually keep this up? 9 goals conceded.
I mean, you just got to take a look at the Sunderland game, haven't you?
Yeah,
He saved two,
yeah,
two penalties in 10 minutes.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, and also I wouldn't consider James Trafford a great goalkeeper before this, but you kind of have to.
Yeah.
Now, like, nine.
He's an
Okay, you
under
can
he's
talk
an
about.
he's an under 21 World Cup winner with England.
No, I know,
He's
but
not a bad
you wouldn't shove him
goalkeeper
in a. You wouldn't shove him in
in the Premier
like
League.
in the Premier League. He didn't look brilliant, did he?
No, but I think he would now.
But I think now, I think now, bless him, you could argue that now.
I think Esteve's an unsung hero as well. I think he's a great defender, and I know Tottenham are looking at him over the January transfer
Yes,
window. I
yeah.
don't think he'd look out of place when you've got a defence like Archie Gray. He's not as good as Esteve, I don't think. I think Archie Gray was very, very good for Leeds and he's not been very good for Tottenham at all. Now we take a bit of a nasty turn as we turn our attentions back to horse racing. I know I did a little piece in last week's episode about Michael O'Sullivan being in intensive care, and unfortunately we got the news on Sunday, the early hours of Sunday morning, that he passed Thursday the 6th of February at Thurles on a horse called Wee Charlie. He fell at the last, and he never regained consciousness from that point forward. They stabilised him at the racetrack and they transported him via air ambulance to Cork Hospital, and he remained in intensive care until he passed on Sunday morning. Uh, Michael was an up and coming jockey in the weighing room, especially in Ireland. He also won aboard Jazzy Matty that Cheltenham Festival. And recently, when his partnership in November disintegrated with Barry Connell, he started picking up spare rides for champion trainer Willie Mullins, and even won a Grade 3 on Embassy Gardens late December around Christmas time. So he really was an up and coming jockey, and all the jockeys in the weighing room have come out and done lovely tributes to him, saying how much of a character he was in the weighing room, what he brought to the weighing room, and when you're getting compliments off people like Ruby Walsh, you've got to have been doing something right. Uh, his funeral is today, actually. As of recording this, it's in about an hour's time. Uh, Yesterday we had another funeral in Rating. John Hales, the famous owner. Uh, his funeral was led by his favourite horse, Neptune Cologne, who won the Grand National for him in 2011. Uh, Another integral part of racing. He was an owner, owned horses with the likes of Jed Mason and Sir Alex Ferguson, who many of you know from the footballing world. Another big character lost in racing, so it's been a tough couple of weeks for racing. But with Cheltenham just 3 weeks away, hopefully we can start picking up and start moving more positively forward as we look to the sports showpiece.
And obviously, I don't really know much about horse racing, but 24 is no age to really pass away at.
No.
So thoughts and prayers go out to the family
And
and friends.
when you think about it, when people bet on horse racing, uh, we bet on it for entertainment, and we don't realise that these horses are hurtling at jumps at 30 miles an hour,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's a human aboard them, uh, and it just puts it into perspective really when something like this happens.
Moving on to football now. Well, moving back onto football, I should say. Yesterday for us, Club Brugge beat Atalanta. A shock victory, really. 3 goals to 0. Now in that game, quite quite comedically, Ademola Lookman, who's known for not being the best penalty taker.
No, he's had a few
He's had
howler
a few
penalties
howlers,
before.
notably the Fulham versus West Ham.
Yep,
That's quite a notable one in my opinion. Um, he had a fight to get
the
uh,
penalty.
Jackson-esque, some
Yeah,
may say, um, to get the penalty, and absolutely squandered it
yep,
by just basically passing the ball
to the
into the
goalkeeper.
goalkeeper. Now it's funny. That is funny. I mean, basically jostling for a goal and that for a penalty, and then doing that is quite funny.
Especially because okay, he was fighting to get his team back into the Champions League. They were already 2-1 down on aggregate, I believe. They were 3-1 down in the game. They were basically out. It was too late, you'd think, for a comeback, unless it was a miracle. And he's fighting his teammates for a penalty that he didn't even get. I believe it was Juan Cuadrado who was fouled in the
Yes,
box,
Cuadrado was fouled. Yes.
and Lookman was fighting teammates to take the penalty. And I think it was quite amusing what his manager came out and said about the post match.
I mean, Gasparini came out and said it's one of the worst.
He's one of the
He's
worst
one of,
penalty
yeah.
takers he's ever seen.
Which, I mean, is he wrong with the track record of Ademola Lookman on penalties? I mean, he's a great
He's a
player,
great
but
goal scorer, yeah.
great player and goal scorer, but penalties he's not his forte, which is
I,
quite funny.
I think there's a hefty fine coming his way as well because Gasparini also talked about how he wasn't happy the fact he was fighting his teammates for the ball. I just
It's
think
not a good look, is it?
no, not
Simple
at
as.
all. And I think like when we saw it with Nicholas Jackson for Chelsea, he fought for the ball and the penalty was scored. When you do something like that, you've got to ensure that you score, otherwise you're opening yourself up to the criticism, and
Yeah.
it's just not ideal for any party involved, really.
And obviously, Club Bruges go through because of this win, which is quite a big.
Yeah.
It's quite big for them, beating a team like Atalanta, who obviously did very well in Europe.
I, I think I think you saw the frustrations of the Atalanta players. Ademola Lookman obviously fighting for the penalty.
Yeah, I mean that's out of frustration. You're not doing that otherwise, are you?
No,
So
and their captain Toloi
yeah, yeah,
had a funny incident. He felt he was pushed by one of the Club Bruges players. He then went to throw the ball at him,
slipped over
flipped while
whilst throwing the ball,
while failing to throw the ball, and then got up, elbowed
charged
him in the
at
back,
him.
and it was always going to be a red card. In the 87th minute, he completely lost his head. Uh, and it just summed up Atalanta's performance last night. They needed a win. They were already down on aggregate. They got down early. Club Brugge scored 3 goals in the first half, and in the second half, Atalanta did score the goal with Lookman, but
But it was not enough
no. And
to make a comeback.
joining them going through is Feyenoord, Benfica after a great 3-3 draw
Yeah,
with Monaco, and another big talking point from last night. Celtic did take the lead against Bayern Munich, but Alphonso Davies, you could say, scrambled the ball in the 94th minute to secure Bayern's place in the next round. Speaking of the teams who've gone through to the next round of the Champions League, we'll find out the other four who join them tonight. You think the two obvious ones to go through is Paris Saint-Germain, who are 3-0 up on aggregate against Brest, and Dortmund. Dortmund were on the back foot, I remember rightly, when the first time they played Sporting, but somehow
but
managed to come away with
managed
a
to
3-0 win.
3-0 win for them, which means they're 3-0 on aggregate for today's match. Now, you would think, I mean, obviously when this gets released, it'll be after, but you'd think Dortmund should have an easy time, relatively, unless Gyökeres comes out and deals business. But
as well as PSG. PSG should have a very easy time against Brest.
yeah, it should be very straightforward for them. Now, PSV play Juventus, 2-1 aggregate lead for the side in Turin. That's probably a bit more closer.
It's closer
It's
because it only takes one mistake and Juve could give a
And
ball
we've
away.
seen how strong PSV have been.
Oh,
They are
at
very
home,
strong at
at
home,
home
incredibly strong. That's prob. I would not be surprised if PSV come out 3-0 or something along those lines.
yeah, no, PSV are on a long home stretch of winning, I believe. PSV have a great record in Europe as well, including Liverpool last month, I believe it was. Uh,
Yep.
Maybe earlier this month, but they've not lost a home game in European football in the last 11 games, and their home run in the league lasts even further, many years, I believe. Is it closing in on 2 years?
Yeah, something along those lines. I mean, PSV don't seem to just lose at home. Like,
Yeah.
it's not in there. They like to draw, don't get me wrong, they love to draw, but
Of
not a loss.
A draw won't be enough for them tonight though against
No, they
Juve.
need to crack on and win.
And when you go back to the Liverpool game, Liverpool didn't play a full strength squad, and you'd probably think that the record would be different if
But they
Liverpool.
didn't. But Liverpool didn't need to.
Yeah. But Juve definitely do need to
Yeah,
tonight. They'd be very
yeah.
silly if they weren't conservative with the team selection in a knockout game that they're only 2-1 up in aggregate. But it will be interesting to see if PSV's home form does stand strong tonight, and maybe even get them a berth in the next round.
And then tonight for us again later on. Real Madrid do play Man City at home at the Bernabeu. Now 3-2 on aggregate for Madrid. You would expect another win for Real Madrid. I mean, it's very close. It's hard to pick,
I
but
think so.
you'd presume a win for the team in white.
I think if you just had this game this time last season, there was no way we see Man City lose even at the Bernabeu.
Mm.
But we've spoke about it in the podcast before. It's been very obvious that the team's not been the same that they have in recent seasons, at all. And Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, they're a very good team. The Bernabeu's a fortress in many ways, especially in Europe. The game was tight as we expected at the Etihad.
Yeah, yeah.
An Edison mistake, you could call it, a gifted. Bellingham, a 95th minute winner, and gave them a cushion coming into this game. A draw's not going to be enough for Man City. They do have to go to the Bernabeu and win, and to make sure they get through to the next round. And if they don't, you're now struggling to see competitions that they've got a chance of winning this season.
Yeah, I mean they're not winning the Premier League this season, I would say. They're not
They're not in the EFL Cup.
they're not there anymore. They're
FA Cup, they've got Plymouth in the next round, but it's still quite far away. They've still got a few rounds to go for
yeah,
that.
yeah. So
It could be a trophyless season for Man
it
City.
it could be. I would be surprised if it is. I think they've got the FA Cup
Uh,
for sure.
I don't think they do. I think you've still got Liverpool. Oh, you don't have Liverpool in there.
Plymouth.
Plymouth, not Liverpool out.
Well, you've got Plymouth, but I think you don't lose to Plymouth as Man City.
No, but there's still got
Um,
3 rounds after that, or 2 rounds after
yeah,
that.
no, I know, of course, but
I wouldn't
you'd
be
be.
surprised to see a trophyless season for Man City
They
this
just
season.
don't look the same
No,
at all, and they've got I mean, Mamouche scored a hat trick. What was that in the first half?
yeah,
I mean, fair play to the lad. I had my doubts about him joining the Premier League and joining a team like City, but clearly
it's
it's
worked.
working. Not that it wouldn't work, but just more the fact where his placement would be inside the 11.
And I think the way the Man City has performed this season further reinstates how Rodri won the Ballon d'Or over Vinicius Junior. If you take Vinicius Junior out of a Real Madrid team, it does significantly decrease the team's ability, but
Mm.
you'd still think they'd be able to win the La Liga without Vinicius Junior. And I thought Man City would be able to win the Premier League without Rodri. but that's just very, very not the case. It's so obvious that they're missing both defensively and link-up play. Last season he made so many passes. He's just everywhere on the pitch, and he just helps the team so much. And another talking point surrounding these two teams is the last week's late drama came from Jude Bellingham, and since he's had a game on Saturday where he got sent off, obviously he is eligible to play for tomorrow because it is Champions League competition, but he could be
Yes.
facing up to 12 game suspension in La Liga, which
Oof.
would be massive for Real Madrid to lose a player like that for such a lengthy period.
Yeah, it seems quite lengthy. It's between the official regulation state for between 4 and 12 matches missed. It depends how strict La Liga want to be on that, or whoever the governing body is in Spain. Um, but yeah, that's quite. I think it's quite massive for Real Madrid. Like you said, caliber of player that Jude is. Um, he'll be missed if it is 12 games that they do decide to punish him for, which I doubt.
And just for context, the referee claimed that Bellingham aimed an expletive in his direction, aimed at the referee, and both Ancelotti and Bellingham have both denied this and said that the expletive was used in general and was at no point towards the referee, which, if
Yeah.
that is found the case, again, similar to the Osmajic Hannibal situation, I don't know how we'd decipher that. I don't know if
No,
it can be deciphered.
unless literally there is a camera pointing at him while saying it.
Yeah, but you'd think that
Um,
issue would be resolved by now if there
yeah, if
was.
there was, it would be resolved. It would be resolved within 30 minutes of it
Yeah.
happening. Um, so yeah, unfortunate for Real Madrid. Obviously, he's playing tonight. He
Hmm.
can play because it doesn't carry over the red cards into the Champions League, so therefore he is eligible to play tonight, and he will play tonight. Um, but yeah, not great for Real Madrid, but I'm sure they'll be fine.
To end on a more light-hearted note, we've talked about the unfortunate death of Michael O'Sullivan in this podcast, and we've done some quite heavy previews, racial slurs, expletive aims toward the referee. It's been quite a, a,
A
a serious
negativity and serious as well.
uh, episode. So we'll end up with something light-hearted. Last night we saw the reveal of a lot of the F1 cars, all of the F1 cars,
All the
actually.
teams. Actually, I quite like that.
Yeah, the fact that they do it.
Instead of it being social media
Yeah,
posts, you actually have one big event. I mean, maybe not the event, but it's quite nice to have one big thing where it's just right, every car, here we
yeah,
go.
this one, this one, this
Yeah,
one,
yeah,
this one.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is a very, very nice setup.
I mean, I do really like Sauber, the kick F1 team, stake F1 team, whatever they are technically called. I think Sauber's technically correct. The green that goes into the black. I know the criticism is, oh, it's not fade. It's not directly faded. I think it's beautiful. I love cars that like because there's a lot of carbon fiber things now, and these designs will change. They'll end up having carbon fiber on
Yeah.
anywhere, and there'll be hardly any paint towards the end of the season. But I love a car that's properly painted like that, and it's bright and it's bold. And I think the green on the Sauber is perfect, and you know exactly what it is. You know exactly who it is. You can't miss them. And it's a shame they'll be 18th, 19th, 20th the odd time. Shame on that. But it's a lovely car. I mean, I know you don't like it. I don't think, or
It's
not as much as me.
yeah,
But I
it
think it's lovely.
it's not that I don't like it. I think they could have faded, like Henry said, the criticism. I think they could have faded it maybe a bit better because it does look to me like they've cut the car in half, painted the front half of it green and the back half of it black. Um, but it I do accept Henry's point about the fact that they do stand out. You're gonna know who they are, and I do like teams who have bright colour. What I don't like is teams reusing the same liveries from last season. Red Bull's an example. McLaren's is very similar to what it was last season. The Mercedes car is just a very generic Mercedes car with a silver. Um,
Alpines, you could argue the same.
Alpine,
However, I think they have changed it a bit more.
yeah, I like Alpines. Again, the blue and pink, it stands out.
It's a good combination of colours, isn't it? Blue
It's
and
not
pink.
just a dark dark blue like Red Bulls, but I think my favourite has to be the Ferrari. I'm not usually a massive fan of the straight red from the Ferrari, but I think they've gone a bit darker with the shade this season, and I think that's worked really well. The little bits of white on the top of the car, I think, worked really, really well. Um, and I think seeing Lewis Hamilton in that Ferrari car is going to be a sight to behold. When come the season, which starts in about 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. That's come down very, very fast from the last race of the season. I remember watching it with you actually.
Yeah, the last race of the season, yeah, we did watch it together.
And that's been the third episode of Bathurst and Elwell Sports Show. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you join us back for next week's preview, where there'll be definitely some boxing action in there, and hopefully some
Definitely.
more football. Bye.
Yeah, bye.